Hello, everybody. So yeah, I'm going to give you some insights about where the Berlin pilot actually stands and what we have done so far. So talking about the challenges, I I could identify like the social side and the technical side. And on the social side, I mean, in our campaign, we were measuring with people on the bikes, like cyclists, and as well people who live in their homes, and we're measuring from there in two different neighborhoods. And most of the challenges actually appeared for the static campaign and regarding the recruitment. So it was quite difficult finding enough people. For the mobile campaign for the cyclists, it was super easy. We had several applications, much more than we actually needed. And for the static campaign, it was actually the other way around. And going with this, it was difficult having a good access to the neighborhood, even though we were working intensively with the local initiatives there. It was challenging and time consuming, having a proper access, as well as involving SES groups in our campaign. So the ratio is quite low. And in general, I would say that the ratio of time commitment and the response in the end wasn't that optimal. And throughout the process, we even had the problem of some participants dropping out, being frustrated with the sensors and so on. So on this picture, you can see how many people actually dropped out in the static campaign, and it appears to be quite a lot, like we are talking of 30 to 40%. And in the end, we had some difficulties holding up with our original research design. So we couldn't maintain it and therefore couldn't have the optimal distribution of the sensors in the district we wanted to measure on very polluted streets and so on. And going hand in hand, we had some technical problems, or still have some facing some technical problems with the sensors, the apps, and the dashboards we are using. And of course, the maintenance and the service, yeah, it's very time consuming. And this is also the reason because they're still in the optimization phase, creating kind of a frustration among the participants and facing then again the result of losing more people by dropping out. But let's go into the solutions and see how we dealt with the challenges. So overall, of course, we couldn't solve all the problems, but I would say that the whole team in the Comp Air project was very eager, doing their best, so we could tackle quite a few of them. In general, we couldn't solve the problem of having a lack of SES groups because the campaign was already going on and we couldn't integrate more people throughout the process. But in general, there was a constant improvement of the technical parts like the sensors, the apps, the dashboards, and all the developers, they took the feedback very seriously by the participants and did their best in integrating it, presenting an update, which now it's a great achievement because the update of the app, for example, works perfectly fine. And in the end, I would say it was a joint process of the participants trying out this first versions, giving some feedback and very helpful feedback, and then working close with the developers. It was a great circle of seeing how, as a group, we could also grow together, learn from each other. And of course, this also needs a very close contact and a constant communication with the participants. We then even intensified throughout the process. And let's have a look at our next step, at the results. In our campaign, as I said, for the mobile campaign, like all the cyclists participating, we didn't have any problems in finding enough participants. So now we have 45 people measuring their daily routines, going to the work or any kind of care work or whatever, and measuring the fine dust with the SODAC sensors. And in the end, we still have 22 people left doing the static measurements from their homes with 70 particulate matter with the SODAC, 7 soot sensors with the BC meters, and 8 people also measuring the traffic. Another result is that we could build quite a good network for our organization and in the project, like cooperating with many different neighborhood and mobility initiatives. Yeah, it's something that definitely will remain even after the project, as well as the contacts and the exchange with the Berlin Senate administration and even the lower political levels. And I just wanted to give you an example for our results. So what you can see is a person, a cyclist, and I know in general we are talking about the EU limits of fine dust, and still we were very interested to see and compare the results and the data with the WHO limits, which are of course stricter than the EU levels. So what you can see is that most of the time, the person cycling to work had a much, much higher amount of fine dust. So you can see very high amounts of like 60 micrograms, which is a very high and health risk level, being explained by the Sahara dust, for example. And a very good result is as well that when we compared our data with official measurement data, we could see that they were more or less the same. So I guess in the end, we can have the resume that the collected data appear quite valid. And now I want to close with the recommendations we would like to give for the Berlin pilot. We again have 2 sides, like the participation is definitely not a casual thing. I guess everybody knows, but when it comes to the proper work, it's nothing that just happens on the side. It's not comparable with the normal scientific project, but it needs a lot of resources, an early involvement of the neighborhood and the people you are working with. We are talking like in general, like something about several months, even gaining trust, really diving into a community and a neighborhood, which is very difficult. Assuring within the frame of a scientific project. So it's always a challenge, but still, I would say it's one of the biggest recommendations we could take away. And also approaching different initiatives and the administration levels at an early stage to involve them and to make sure that the results you're collecting are also very good in reaching the political level and having some leverage points. And another thing is ensuring at least as good as possible that the technical advices we are using have a functional state so that we at least can limit the frustration level of the participants and not making it more difficult for us in reaching or having difficulties in reaching the participants and then having them dropping out. So I think that's also a good leverage point we could take from. And there you see just a picture of a former colleague being in a great exchange on the streets at the round we had measured before at the Berlin Gräfekiez. Yeah, that's it from my side. Thank you.